Welcome to GrayPrimer and a very happy new year. This is a show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode I'm going to be looking at the top 10 hobby products I found on the internet. I'm going to be taking a Chaos Knight Rampager and mashing it up in a huge diorama with an Astra Militarum Imperial Guard Deathstrike. And at the very end, I'm going to be sharing the details of how you can win in the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. That's right, 1,000 subscribers, and I couldn't have done it without you. Well, obviously I couldn't have done it without you, but it's people like Ben and Steve and Mark and Lorcan and all the rest of you wonderful subscribers. That's how I got here, and I'm only going to take it further and further from this point. All of you have contributed to getting the channel to where it is today. If you aren't already a subscriber, please consider hitting the subscribe button and hitting the bell for notifications if you want to find out when the next bit of content lands. And if you hang on to the very end of the video, you can find out how you could win in the 1,000 subscriber giveaway competition that I'm running throughout January. Why did I put it right at the very end? Well, so you would watch the video. But if you want to skip, you can do, I suppose. You could go to the chapters, but you'd miss a giant mech tearing apart a tank. Seriously. And all the other stuff. Back soon. And first of all, let's have a look at the top 10 hobby products I found on the internet. At number 10 is an ogre for fantasy football from starplayershop.com. It's a classic looking sculpt and cast in metal. At 9 are a range of 1/35 scaled accessories from Ammo by Mig. These radios, cameras and musical instruments could add a perfect finishing touch to your bases and dioramas. While some of the new Oryx from Games Workshop have unusually elongated torsos that have actually put me off buying them, these cruel boys have belly armor to hide that weirdness, so they find themselves in position 8. At 7 is the Secret Service Sniper from anvilindustry.co.uk. This British company has some interesting sculpts, perfect for adding a unique touch to your armies. AK Interactive land at number 6 with their range of acrylic transparent colors. It's a great way to tint glass and lights in your models to the color of your choice. Ramshackle Games is another UK entry at number 5 with this awesome Doom Blaster tank. At 8 inches long, it's not far off Baneblade dimensions and would be a brilliant orc heavy battle tank. In 4th place is the Mechanic Armory Servitor with shoulder pads from Wargame Exclusive. While the Servitor carries a fully repaired and purity sealed pauldron up front, you can also see that it is busy repairing a battle damaged pauldron on its back. Wonderful stuff. Ammo by Mig feature again in this top 10 with their U-Rust Corrosion Creator set at number 3. This comprehensive kit produces real rust effects with the supplied metallic liquids and oxidizing chemicals. It is just too cool. This episode's runners-up are the St. Patrick's Halfling team, designed by Cross Lances and available on comicsandinos.com. It's equal parts funny and furious, and this plucky fantasy football team feels like it was cloned from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish logo. And at number 1 is the Frontier Town Main Street White Box Bundle from TT Combat. For €90, £75, $100, you're getting 10 highly detailed 28 to 32mm scaled Western themed buildings and a bunch of accessories too. I'm a massive fan of TT Combat MDF scenery. They're always great value for money, but this white box bundle takes that to a whole new level. Great stuff. And now we return to our featured content. When I returned to this hobby, I only had eyes for Blood Bowl. I actually wanted to make an entire league, 2 full conferences of teams, and really that's what I was looking for every time I looked at a kit. There were a few great looking teams from Games Workshop for Blood Bowl, but if I was going to make an entire league, I was going to have a lot of doubles, triples, and quadruples in there. So what ended up happening was anytime I looked at kits anywhere from any manufacturer, I was thinking how suitable could this be for Blood Bowl, or what would I need to do to convert it into Blood Bowl. And in the end I have over 60 mostly unpainted Blood Bowl teams, so I got my league, and at some point in the future I'll probably paint some more of them. And these days, because I'm all about kit bashing and diorama building, I look at kits in a very different way. I try to sort of pull some kind of narrative from them. So like when I see a tank kit, I'm thinking maybe it's splashing through water, or it's on fire, or it's stuck in some sand or something like that, or really heavily corroded. And most of the kits I look at don't even get to be featured in a diorama. I'm just thinking of them for parts to fill out my bits box, or for a specific part for a diorama. I'm cannibalizing a lot of plastic kits these days. And so I come to this episode's diorama. I already had an Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard Deathstrike, which is a Chimera pattern variant with a humongous missile on its back. And I wondered how cool it would look if some huge creature or mech came along and just tore that missile away before it had a chance to fire. And I just so happened to have a Chaos Knight Desecrator, which is about the right size of creature you would need to tear a Deathstrike in half. So let's go have a look, see how I put these two elements together into an otherwise pretty and pastoral Warhammer 40,000 scene. Let's go check it out. So what I want to do here is have a Desecrator in the middle of the little diorama, and he's torn the lid off of, like he's torn the turret or the missile launcher off the top of the Deathstrike, and he's holding that in one hand, and underfoot he has the remainder of the Deathstrike, just pushing it gradually into the mud. That's what I want to do. I just don't know how tough it's gonna be. And I don't know how I'm going to get that Deathstrike to show like it's putting up a fight. So I might need to give that some more deep thought. Anyway, this is what I have in front of me. I got a Desecrator, which has got a lovely box and lots of lovely details all over it. And some great images of what this thing looks like in this very fetching white paint scheme. And then I have the not so interesting Manticore Deathstrike box. This thing is just in one of these generic Warhammer boxes. I don't know why they package them like this. They got these tiny little stickers up here in the top right hand corner. The sticker I don't think is repeated anywhere else. So as a retailer, this is a complete and utter nightmare. How do you display this? Does everything have to sit like with the forward facing? Because you certainly can't put them sideways. Nobody knows what they are, or head on. Nobody knows what they are. So then you have to dedicate an entire frontage to just this. Anyway, that's my rant over. I'm gonna have a look inside because the outside is completely uninteresting. Inside we're in the more familiar territory. We've got one of these great little cardboard trays, the instruction manual here in black and white, but it's not gonna be that tough to build. These are annoying, these multi-part tracks. What are we talking here? We're talking 14 pieces for just the tread. That's just on one side, so 28 in total. Just I'm killing this tank, aren't I? So maybe I don't have to build it entirely. That would be lovely. It really depends how much I want to submerge in the dirt. So on the rest of the instructions here, just how to make a Chimera, how to turn it into either a Manticore or a Deathstrike. Deathstrike comes with that huge missile, is that right? Yeah, so the Manticore comes with just 4 smaller ones. The Deathstrike, you get all the missiles. The 4 here are kind of clustered around the big one in the center. We got the standard Imperial Guard tank transfer sheet here. And I say standard, but I don't mean that to sound like I'm diminishing it in any way. It's a good transfer sheet. Kind of wish there were more chevron-y things on it, but hey, there are plenty of those around. All of our missiles. Very little in this box, actually. You got the standard Chimera thing here. This is new to me, though. So many missiles. The length of this missile here. And it's pretty pointy, too. So that's the Manticore Deathstrike. And over into the Knight Desecrator. A much more expensive kit. Much more interesting box. And let's have a look. Okay. Humongous base. Instruction manual here. I have built regular Imperial Knights before. I did them in that Renegade set. I'll put a link to that in the show notes below. But this is the first time I've done any of the Chaos ones. And I didn't even know there were 2 types. So we got a Rampager and a Desecrator. Alright. A full color manual, which is lovely. And it looks like there are a lot of decals. I haven't found those yet, but they're in there somewhere, I hope. And it looks like it's showing you different weapons loadouts here too. And then at the back we've got the data sheets for the Deathstrike and the Rampager in many different languages. And then into the actual sprues. Okay, so there is a decent decal sheet at the bottom here. Lots of logos and look like graffiti kind of chaotic markings there too. I like that. We can see the details in the sprue. Oh, cool. Look at these faces. Gotta love those. That's magic. 3 different variants there as well by the looks of it. And into the main sort of body pieces here. The cool stuff. All the shooty, cutty, burny stuff. So I'm going to go and build the Deathstrike completely. I will leave things like arms unglued if they're under carapace weapons here. I'll leave those unglued. Head, I guess the foot connectors, and then the waist as well. I'll build all of the components, but I'll just not glue most of them together, just until I can work out how I want the little diorama to look, and then I can start to glue it in exactly the pose that I want for however that's going to look. For the Deathstrike, it will be slightly different. I'll make up things like the treads and stuff. I'll probably go as far as where I would be putting on the turret. I'll build the turret separately, and then I'll start to mash these two together and see how it's going to work. Okay, let's get cracking. So everything is built, but much of what you see here is held together with blue tack, like poster putty. It gives me a chance to decide on how to position items and where to place special elements like this tea light and polyester fluff. The Deathstrike missile is absolutely huge, but the Hand of the Knight is big enough to get a grip on it for sure. I use air packs to position the tank so that I know how it'll sit beside the Knight. This injured Guardsman will bring some humanity to the diorama as he stares helplessly up at the supersized carnage. And having everything connected by blue tack has obvious disadvantages, as I spent a fair amount of time reattaching fingers and various body parts. These hard foam sculpting blocks are really dusty, but great for carving. I use the green polystyrene sheet underneath for some structural strength, and it's fairly easy to cut down to size, although it can shatter if bent. I use thick super glue to counter any absorbency in the sculpting blocks, and I end up with a really solid base to build on. I once again position all the components of the build so that I can mark everything out and get to work on carving, sculpting, accessorizing, and painting. This is one of the most critical phases of the build. You can also see that the Knight is still in 2 halves. I'll keep it like this until I know exactly where its arms need to be and where its torso needs to be. Getting the tank just right took a lot of trial and error, especially after I decided against having it pushed into the mud. Instead, I wanted it lifted clear of the ground and snagged on the Knight's gigantic chain blade. I mark out all the components onto the sculpting blocks and also make a note of the sightlines. This helps me keep track of the interplay between the Guardsman, the tank driver, and of course the colossal Knight. With the tank and Knight doing a lot of damage to their immediate environment, this also gives me a good plan to follow when I'm hacking up the mud, grass, and fence posts much later on in the build process. With the elements marked on the board and all models safety set to one side, I can freehand the shape of the road that will carve across this entire diorama, and you can see that the road's gonna cut right through the path of the battle. I also spend some time just marking out where fence posts are going to be planted, and you can get an early idea of the damage that I'm going to be adding later on. But that's the planning complete, it's time to start building. I use matchsticks for fence posts as they scale really well, and these red bricks from Green Stuff World form a perfect border for the road. I push them gently into the foam and secure them with PVA glue, and they work really well. And here's an idea of the debris-strewn road I'll be aiming for. Now I'm using Daz White air drying clay. It's easy to work with and slow to dry, but it sets as hard as rock and be sanded or drilled later on. I want it to look like the Knight has really displaced huge amounts of mud as it walks, just like a T-Rex. I'm using Java's camouflage netting to complete the fence, and again I think it scales really well and attaches to the fence posts easily with super glue. I took some test images to check the sightlines and make doubly sure that everything looks realistic before I start painting. I think the knight's T-Rex feet look awesome here, and it gives a good sense of its weight. And you can see the high-tech scaffolding for my tank, which is a big upgrade over the air pouch. Just before I get it primed, and he's looking right at his new favorite toy. Love this. So here is the finished diorama, and I am absolutely thrilled with it. The drama and ultraviolence sit uncomfortably amidst the pastoral scene, and the wounded soldier successfully brings some humanity to this carnage. The IKEA tea light works really well as a flickering rocket flame, and I've left it so that I can get access to it to change the battery. This Chaos Knight is a towering monster, but I love that the Deathstrike and its payload are still in the fight, even if it's in need of a new track and some repairs to the launch platform. The grass running up the center of the road gives a nice rural touch, and I think the fence is pretty convincing. I live on a road much like this, so I only had to look out my window to check for accuracy. But let's just have a close-up look at this thing. Close up you can see some of the weathering details and some of those fantastic mud effects. It's hard to depict a sense of movement, but I hope this doesn't feel too static. I definitely feel for the lone guardsman who's nursing an injured arm and probably just wants a lukewarm cup of recaf and a low stick back at the barracks. And here coming up is my initial paint palette, but I ended up expanding on this in a huge way. To speed up the process, I base coated the entire knight matte black and weathered with silver. Please feel free to pause any of these painting guides if you want to check out how I painted the diorama. Here's a breakdown of the road, mud, grass, fence, and the injured guardsman. And finally, Betsy the tank in all of its muddy glory, along with my first ever decals. This has turned out to be a truly photogenic diorama and seems to look interesting from many angles. It was a ridiculous amount of work, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Just look at this heretical maniac. Fantastic. I really hope you enjoyed that content. I certainly had a huge amount of fun putting it together, even though it took way longer than I thought it was going to. I am thrilled with the end result. And it was great to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2021. We just sneaked that one in there. But it's thanks to all of you for subscribing, for commenting, for liking. And you make the channel what it is, honestly. And I really do hope that if you haven't already subscribed, you consider clicking the button below. The content you've just seen is typical of what I'll be working on throughout 2022, as well as some unboxings of cool kits that I find. But yeah, much more of that to come. But let's ask the important questions. What's in the box and how can you win it? So, what's in the box? There's a Blood Bowl team in there, some Vikings, there's a whole bunch of Reaper miniatures, a painting handle from Redgrass Games, there's one of those artist-proof Space Marines from Series 1 from McFarlane, and there are pin badges and postcards and all sorts of cool stuff. I am not doing it justice. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and it's very cool. And how you can be in with a chance of winning is to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and that you comment below in one of the January posted videos. So that's either this one or the next one, which is going to be the Dungeon Bowl unboxing and miniature review. So make sure you're subscribed and comment in one of those two videos. So that's how you can be in with a chance of winning this lovely prize. But I also really appreciate when you share the channel, share the content in social media with your friends and family and anyone else you think might dig this kind of content. And at the end of the month, I will draw a name from the hat of all of the people who are subscribers who also commented in either of the videos that I post in January. And I will post a short video just to say who that winner is. And then I'll get all that lovely loot on its way to you. On the next episode, I'm going to be looking at Dungeon Bowl from Games Workshop. It's Blood Bowl, but it's deeper, darker, dirtier, and magicer. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.